Hi, and welcome back to another AnyRPG Development Livestream. In this video series, you can watch the live development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in both Unity package and source code format. You can also download A Lost Soul, the free playable game that I work on in these episodes, at the same page. In this episode, we will be adding a new feature to the engine and actually adding something really cool, even cooler than a new feature. We will be adding sounds to the engine, like actual sounds that are redistributable and will be included with the engine. So up until now, I haven't had any redistributable sounds, but we had some donated to the project. And so now the engine will include this list of sounds that you can see right here. So we have some arrows and flame stuff, some earthquakes, some water splashes, some doors, some footsteps, some gadgets, and then just like a whole pile of different elemental spells like electricity, ice, air, water, fire, and then like poison and paralyze and weapon hits and stuff. So this is really cool because these will be in the engine from now on, which just will make it a lot easier to use out of the box because you just won't have to go look around and download as much stuff. And one of the sounds that's included in this is the footstep sounds, and I want to include the capability to use that in the engine. And there's two different ways that we're going to include it. Right now, this is a single track, and we can make it loop. So if the player's running, we could just have it continuously looping like this over and over. The other way to do it is you can actually use animation events so that when the footsteps or when your character's feet hit the ground, you actually see animation, or you'll play the individual files one at a time. And to show you an example of that, there's this RPG character animation pack free that the original animations in the Lost Soul game are based on. And if you look at them and go to the animations tab when you import them and open up the events here, you can actually see two events, foot R and foot L, and those correspond to when the right foot and the left foot hit the ground. So you can play individual footsteps for the right and left foot so that they match up exactly with when your character's feet hit the ground. So we will be adding both of those capabilities into the engine today. And the way that I want to do that is because it's going to basically depend on which character, like what the footsteps should sound like. For example, we have some zombie footsteps, and you know, something like that definitely shouldn't be played by a regular character. And you know, we've got like some creature footsteps. That sounds kind of like a giant, not like a regular character. So we're gonna add something to the player's unit profile basically. So each different type of unit will be able to have their own individual type of footsteps in the game. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to use a really cool free tool called Audacity. When I got these sound files, the footsteps are all in just like one loop, and I need to cut them up and make them into individual footstep files so we can play each footstep individually in response to those animation events. So Audacity can be downloaded from audacityteam.org, and I will leave a link for that in the description. I have opened up the sound file in Audacity, and what I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to chop this thing into like 8 files. And I'm totally new to Audacity, so if there's a more efficient way to do this, let me know. Otherwise, what I'm just going to do is edit, copy, file new, edit, paste, file, export as OGG, and then in the sound effects directory here, I'm just going to call this sound footstep1.og. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here. Oops, controls. Okay, let's try that again. I'm just going to drag this over here manually, and then edit, copy, file, new, edit, paste, and export as OGG, and export it as sound footstep 2. Save that. And then I'm going to grab this bit of it right here and edit, copy, file, new, edit, paste, file, export as OGG to sound footstep 3. And then footstep 4, so edit, copy, file, new, edit, paste, file, export as OGG. And sound footstep 4. And copy, file, new, paste, export as OGG, sound footstep 5. Edit, copy, file new, paste, export as OGG, sound footstep 6, edit, copy, file new, paste, file export, export as OGG, sound footstep 7, and finally edit, copy, file new, paste, file export, export as OGG, and sound footstep 8. All right, so now we have a nice list of footstep sounds that we can rotate through. So I'm just going to close all these windows here. Just to clean up my taskbar a little bit. And now Unity has nicely imported those for us because I had them in the sound folder there. And let's just play them here. So we have footstep 1. Yeah, perfect. 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is great. This is a nice like random series of footsteps. So what we want to do is we have our footsteps audio here, and this is an audio profile, and in it this is the looping footsteps right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new one called footstep hits audio, and we'll know that this is the individual hits. So we'll call this footstep hits, and then what we'll do is we'll just set that to 0. We will lock the inspector and type in sound footstep 1 through 8, and then pull them over into the audio clips list. Okay, so now I have an audio profile with the footsteps in it, and now what I want to do is actually attach that to my player. So we've got unit profiles somewhere in the engine, and I'll just go find the unit profile that is associated with the default player. So right here we have our default UMA player unit, and I've already gone ahead and added a couple of new serialized properties. We've got a Boolean play on footstep, and if this is checked, it will play those random footsteps in response to the animator once we write some code, and then we'll send in an audio profile as well. So the audio profile that I want to use for this first implementation is going to be the looping audio profile. So this is just called footsteps. Okay, one thing that we'll have to do is, because we're just typing in the name footsteps right there, which is this, we will want to turn this into a list of actual audio profiles. So to do that, this will be a private list of audio profile, movement, audio, you know what, this should be movement audio profile names, and then this should be movement audio profiles, and that's a new list of audio profile. Then I'm just going to get rid of those two properties right there, quick actions and refactoring, and encapsulate that new one. Okay, good. So then now what we need to do is we need to get a reference to the audio profiles in our setup scriptable objects. So since it's a list, we'll just go through, copy some of this code from something else where we're getting references, paste that in there. And so if, and in this case we're looking at the movement audio profile names does not equal null, then for each movement audio profile name and movement audio profile names, audio profile, we'll just rename that base ability to TMP audio profile, apply that, and we're getting this from the system audio profile manager.getResource based on movement audio profile name, and if TMP audio profile does not equal null, then our movement audio profiles dot add TMP audio profile. Otherwise, this is the unit profile, and actually here I should fix that as well. This is the unit profile that's telling us this, and it's telling us that we could not find audio profile movement audio profile name while initializing my display name. Okay, good. So now we have a reference to our audio profiles. Let's save that, and next we'll just go back into the inspector here, because I'm going to need to reset this value because I just changed the name and it's going to be gone. Okay, so once again, footsteps. All right, so we can save that, and then now let's go ahead and make a way to play it. Now, because we're using the Invector controller, we're going to have to do this in a little bit of a roundabout way. We have the player controller, and we want the one from the AnyRPG folder here. Now the player controller has access to a variable called apparent velocity, and if we find all references to that, we can see that basically every frame in our update method, we're updating the apparent velocity of the character. So what we can do then is when we update the apparent velocity, we can check if the apparent velocity is greater than the run speed, and if it is, then we can just ask it to go ahead and play our movement sound if it's not already playing. So let's go ahead and do that. All this stuff here happens, so that's good. Okay, so we will make a new function here, and let's just call this private void handle movement audio, and just call handle movement audio from here. And if, what do we want to check here? First we need to check if the player is even moving at all. So if our apparent velocity is greater than equal to, and then we got to get a reference back to our character, so I think we're using base character as our way to do that, and we want character stats dot run speed. So basically, if we're running, we're gonna do this. We also want to know that our character has a movement audio profile, and that audio profile is not set to basically footsteps mode. So to do that, we will check if base character dot my character unit dot unit profile. We have to find the unit profile here. Let me just see. You know what? It might even be in base character. Yeah, it's in base character. Okay. Base character dot my unit profile. First of all, we should just make sure that it's not null. And base character dot my unit profile dot play on footstep must equal false. And if all that stuff is true, then it's time to check if we have footstep audio to play. So I guess actually I want to turn this around a little bit. First, I want to make sure if base character dot my unit profile is null, we're just going to return. So now we don't need to perform that check. And we can also do if base character dot my unit profile dot movement audio profiles is null, we can return. So now we know we have a unit audio profile. Good. So also, if play on footsteps is null, we can also return. So we'll put that up here as well. Now we just have a really simple case to worry about. Basically, are we moving or not? Because if we're not, we need to turn off the loop, and if we are, we need to turn it on. So you know what else we should check? We should also check the count of the movement unit audio profiles is greater than 0. So let's do that as well. Because if there's no audio profiles to play, it doesn't matter if we're supposed to play one, we can't anyway. So dot count equals 0. All right, so now we know for sure that if we got here, we've got an audio profile that we can deal with. So what we want to check is I have added a new type of unit audio emitter. So we have this unit audio sources here. And in the unit audio source, I've added a new movement source because we can set this basically as a looping source. All the other sources are one-shot sources, basically. But movement source will be a source that we can allow it to sit there and loop for us. And we haven't really had a need for that yet, so we're just going to have to write a little bit of logic here. So we need to get to the unit audio, and I can't remember if I store a reference to that anywhere or not. If I don't, we're going to make one, because let me just figure that out actually. So we have base character. We don't have unit audio. Okay, we have character unit. Ah, perfect. Character unit already has a reference to unit audio. So if base character dot character unit dot unit audio dot, and let's see if we don't expose the audio sources. So let's go into the unit audio, go to the definition of that. That's a reference to the unit audio controller. And we don't expose the unit audio emitter. So what we can do is we'll make a Boolean to figure out if we're playing audio. So if unit audio emitter is null, then we just want to automatically return false. We kind of want to return false by default. And if unit audio emitter dot, I don't think we even expose the sources in there, so let's just do what we did here and just proxy stuff. Unit audio emitter, go to the definition, we do not expose anything, so we'll make a new function for that, returning false by default. If our movement source is null, we're just going to return false by default. And if our movement source.isPlane is true, then we're going to return true. And then we can query that right there. In fact, what we can even do is just shortcut this and just go return that value, because that'll automatically be false if it's not playing anyway. So perfect. Now we have a way to query if movement is playing. So now we can go back to our controller and we can query if movement is playing. Then we don't need to do anything. No, we do. Okay. So if our parent velocity, we want to know if not movement is playing, because if it isn't, then, and since this is just a looping file, we don't have to worry about what we're going to do about looping through the footsteps. So what we want to do is base character.character unit audio.play, and I don't think I added play movement to this piece of it yet, so I'm just going to add play movement and just pass that on to the audio emitter. And then I should also do stop movement as well. And pass that on also to the audio emitter. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll ask it to play movement on base character dot my unit profile dot movement audio profiles. We're just going to grab the first one, dot audio clip. And first we should check, you know what? Actually, it doesn't even matter, because if we just send in a null audio clip, it just won't even play. Pretty sure. Let me just confirm that. If we go to the emitter, yeah, if audio clip is null, return. Okay, good. So we're totally safe just to send in null audio clips if they don't exist. And we know the audio profiles at least has one value in it because we performed this count check up here. Okay, great. So if it's not playing, then play it. Otherwise, if our apparent velocity is lower, then if it's playing, then stop playing the movement. And that should cause our character to play the footstep loop when we're moving. When we're moving at run speed, because we don't have like a walk loop. Okay, so let's try to load up the game and just try that out. I just realized I made a whole pile of changes to some scriptable objects recently, so we may have to fix like just a few of those. Hopefully nothing too bad. Okay. Let's see what I missed here. Cannot find cloth resource description while processing linen item. So our linen item should be looking for linen as its regional description. Could not find recipe ancient claw. Let's just go look at that. We do have an ancient claw. And it looks like I just didn't add the word recipe, because they all have to have the word recipe at the end of them. What's happening is we're getting duplicate names because these recipe items that I just created and forgot to test before I started recording this, they're clashing with the actual item, because everything that's a child class of item needs to have a completely unique name. Okay, let's save that and press play. We should have a lot smaller of an issue list here, and hopefully just a few more to fix real quick. And likely I have to do the same thing to, let me just go fix all the recipe items and make sure there's nothing else. So all of our armor has the word recipe at the end of it. All our weapons have the word recipe. Both of our jewelries now do. All of our leatherworking does. All of our cloth does. And we need this woodworking one as well. Okay. We'll save that and try this again. Okay, could not find recipe ancient claw while initializing ancient claw recipe. And so let's just go look for the bronze claw. So that's because there is no ancient claw, it's an ancient Katar. was initializing ancient leather pauldrons, which don't exist. It should be ancient leather shoulders. And miner's leather hood doesn't exist because it should be miner's leather headband. Okay, let's try that. We should have fewer errors now. Okay, so I see miner's leather. I don't see pauldrons anywhere. So this is interesting. Okay, could not find item miner's cape recipe. Let's see which capes we have. We do have the miner's cape recipe. We have the miner's cape recipe item, and that should say recipe. I guess I did miss the word recipe on one of those. Okay. That's good. We'll save that. Try again. Sorry, I really should have tested this before I started the episode. I totally just forgot though. Could not find log icon resource while processing guardian mouse attack. Okay, that's fine. We'll make a log icon. So we have pine wood description, and we're just going to call that log icon. And this can just go straight up into item. Now, could not find item miner's leather shoulders recipe while initializing a loot. So this it looks like we don't have the recipe item. So if we look at miner's leather anything recipe item, there we go, pauldrons, and this should say miner's leather shoulders. Let's save that. Now we do need an ancient bow recipe. So that'll have to be in woodworking. The ancient bow will be ancient bow recipe item, and this should say ancient bow recipe, and it should teach the item or the recipe for ancient bow. Now, the actual recipe for ancient bow will need to be in here. I'm going to Control D, set it to ancient bow recipe, call that ancient bow. It will take 1 pine wood, 1 gold ingot, and 1 silk cloth. The item output will be ancient bow, and it'll be woodworking, and we can save that, and then hopefully our game can load. Except for this Unity Editor fallback window thing, which I will fix in a second as well. Okay, good. So all the errors are gone, and layout AnyRPG file, save everything, press play. Okay, good. So let's just load up our Ranger here. Let's go for a run. Okay, so nothing is happening. Let's go take a look at our unit. We have our vBasic unit guy. No, you know what? What we need is, this is actually our player controller that we need, which is part of the player connection. And the player connection has a unit profile name of default UMA player unit. If we look at default UMA player unit, we have a movement audio profile name of Footsteps. And this is default UMA player unit, not default male. Okay. So if we look, we have Footsteps audio, which has the audio clip, sound 58 footsteps, and it is not playing. So what this means is that we need to write some debug messages to tell us what's happening. So let's start here, I guess. We'll add a debug.log, and we want our game object .name, and this is handle movement audio. And we just want to know, like, did we even get here or not? And if so, then our, you know what I want to know actually? I want to know exactly, before I even get here, what is our apparent velocity? Okay. And we're just going to say here we are up to run speed. Else not up to run speed. Okay, and I know that this is working because like our tab targeting is working. And if tab targeting wasn't working, then we definitely wouldn't be getting here. So it could be something else like in this as well. So why don't we just put a message in here? Nothing to do. Returning And let's try that out. Just let it compile. And we'll press play. Load up the game here. And so I don't see any. Oh, you know what? Hey, look at that. I didn't even have them shown there. Okay, good. So let's see. Our guy is bouncing back and forth between up to run speed and not up to run speed. So let's just look at what our character's run speed is, 8.4 meters per second. So I don't hear any audio. Let's actually just check. You know what? We're up. No, we're not up to run speed. We just, yeah. Okay. So essentially the apparent velocity calculation is probably not super fantastic. You can see we end up getting, interestingly enough, a velocity that ends up being lower than our actual velocity. Also, because of the fact that we're using the Invector controller, they don't really have like anything we can easily hook into that'll just tell us like, yeah, we're running right now. So let's just see how we're setting apparent velocity here. So this is in the update, and it's calculating the position and using time.delta time, so it's happening correctly, but what's happening is our character's probably not moving in a great way like that. So I think what I'm going to do, just due to the inaccuracy in it, I think I'm just going to ask if he's basically like at half run speed or greater. Half run speed or greater, we will determine that that's considered to be running. So essentially, we just want to ask if we're at half run speed or greater. And I'm also interested in seeing, let's actually just go over here. I want to see whenever we call stop movement, I want to see whenever we call start movement. And I want to know when we do the same thing on our audio emitter. So we'll just save everything and jump out of the game and jump back in, and then just see if there's anywhere else it's breaking down. Essentially, like, this totally makes sense right here, because essentially, like, every single frame, if it's resetting it, it's never even getting to the point where there's a footstep, because there's like a couple milliseconds at the beginning of that file where there's no sound. So that might be the issue, or there might be like some references I forgot to make. Maybe there's like no reference to the unit audio, or it's getting like a null sound file or something. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me turn that up. I'm gonna just turn the audio all the way up for desktop audio here. I hope it's not too loud. That's so cool. There's like a little bit of a pause. Let me just open up. What's it? Sound footsteps. Where's sound footsteps? Right, it's like sound 20 footsteps or something like that. Nope. Okay, I have to actually look at it. You know, it's like 50 something. Sound 58 footsteps.org. Yeah, okay. So I think what I need to do, I want to fix that right now. I am going to remove the beginning of that because I don't want there to be any lead time on it, basically. Because otherwise there's no like step here at the end. I'm just wondering, if I remove the beginning of that, my character basically makes a footstep immediately. It doesn't really sort of wait for his foot to start moving. You know what? We can try it out. It's fine. So what we're going to do is let's just cut that off the beginning and then export this as an OGG, and we will call it sound 58 footsteps short and save it. Then let's jump out of the game here, and then we will link to sound 58 footsteps short. We'll save that. And now let's go try that out and just see if that loops a little better. Oh yeah, that's so smooth now. You know, it's crazy too because the cadence, it's almost like exactly when his feet are hitting the ground. That is so nice. Oh, okay, that's awesome. So our engine now includes footsteps. So let's do it the other way. We're gonna do it the animation footstep hit method as well. So we'll go to our default UMA player unit profile here, and we will call footstep hits, and we will call play on footstep. Okay, next thing I want to do, wow, what is that? Apparent velocity 26,000 the very first time. That's kind of neat. Okay. So I'm going to just get rid of all these debug messages here because they will slow down the game. And now in our character animation event receiver, basically I already have three methods here. And the reason I have those three methods is because if you've ever downloaded Unity's adventure game kit, the one that includes these robotic units here. As soon as my thing's done compiling, I can show that. There, these guys right here. So if you've ever downloaded Unity's Adventure Game Kit, the one that includes these guys here, they actually throw off an animation event called Play Step. And so I actually had to put this in there just to stop the game from writing warning messages. And in fact, Foot R and Foot L are the animation events that I showed earlier that come from the RPG character kit. So we will write a common handler for all of these, and it'll just be called like play footstep. So we'll make that a private void play footstep. And in all of these methods, we'll just go play footstep. And then what we want to do now is basically the same sort of thing that we did in our player controller here. So let's just copy that logic out and we'll just adjust it slightly as needed. So the first thing we'll need is a way to keep track of what step we're on. So I'll make a private int step index because we want to make sure that we're playing the steps in order so that we don't play like 2 left foot steps in a row or something like that. And we also need a reference. We've got a reference to our character unit, so this is great. We don't even need base character. We do actually, because we need to go back to base character from character unit. So if character unit dot base character with a B, it's probably called my base character, and I'm just gonna rename that real quick here. All right, so then same thing here, or character unit dot base character dot my unit profiles, or movement audio profiles is null, or the character unit dot base character dot count is null, or play on footstep equals false. And you know what, just so that we can actually see these, I'm going to do that because I'm doing a lot of scrolling right now. There, that's better. So character unit dot base character dot my unit profile dot play on footstep. Okay, good. So then we don't care about apparent velocity here because we don't need to actually even handle like playing or not playing. We're just always going to play. It's just a matter of what we are going to play. So we need to get an index. Since we're always starting at 0, it will be safe, and we know that the count is greater than 0, so it'll be safe. Okay, so to start, we just need to play. So character unit dot unit audio dot play movement, and the audio clip we are going to pass in is my movement audio profile 0 dot audio clips on the step index. And for that, we actually need to add one more check, we need to check to make sure that number 0.audioclips.count is not 0, because if it is, we don't have an audio clip either. Okay, that's safe. So then we just want to increment the step index now, and if the step index is greater than or equal to the audio clips.count, we want to just reset it back to 0. So the step index is 1 on an audio clips count of 1, which makes it equal to it because index 0 is the only valid index. We get reset to 0. Okay, good. And that should be all that we need to do to just rotate through all those footsteps in order based on the animation events. Now let's add some animation events because we are using the InVector controller right now. So the InVector controller doesn't have footstep animation events, so we're just going to go add a couple of those just to test them out. So to do that, we need our, let's go find our InVector stuff here. We got some animations, and I believe it is V basic free movement, and we're using this run animation, which has a velocity of 3.38. That's about right, but it has no events. So what we want to do is when we hit the ground with a step right there, we want to add an event called play step. And then when we hit the ground right there, boom, we want to add another event and call it play step. Good. That should do it. So let's save that. I think actually we need to hit apply first. And we might as well do the same thing for the sprint. So boom, play step. Actually, this is really cool because I want to see that our sprint plays the footsteps faster. Actually, you know what? I'm not even sure. It may not. What is our sprint? Our sprint cycle is 14 frames. 15 frames. We may just like be bouncing off the ground. What's our run cycle? Our run cycle is 19. Okay, so we should actually have slightly faster because basically our sprint cycle is about like 25% shorter. Okay, cool. I'm good with that. So now what I want to do is I just want to go into the footsteps audio profile. And I just want to set the audio clip size to 0. This will confirm for me that I'm not accidentally somehow using the old looping audio because the looping audio file is 0. So therefore, if I hear footsteps when I start my game right now, then it has to be because the character is properly responding to animation hit events. So let's let that load up, and we'll test that out. And then I want to test out the sprint too to see if our footsteps sound like they're coming quicker and closer together. basically that shouldn't be happening. Ah, I know what the issue is here. Okay. We set it to loop. I need to make some changes here actually. So the unit audio emitter really shouldn't have to care about the character. So let's add a variable here. We won't even give it a default value. Okay, so if loop, whoops, then do it this way. Otherwise, just do exactly what everyone else does and just one-shot it. And we want to find all references to that. And we will send in the loop. And we will accept the loop. And we will find all references to this. And here we are playing a single footstep. So loop is false. And here we are playing a looping track, so loop is true. Control-Shift-S to save everything. And let's just let it fix these invalid or inconsistent line endings that it is complaining about. After, I think it's compiling or something right now there. Okay, good. So let it fix the line endings and the other. Save that. And let it fix these line endings and save that. And let it compile. And we can press play, and let's go test this out again. Okay, that's not bad. I am seeing the different footsteps being played. And let's sprint. Oh yeah, they're coming quicker. Oh, that is so cool. So basically, when my character starts moving, he's not moving fast enough. He's actually doing the walk cycle. But as soon as we get to the run cycle and the sprint cycle, and in fact, you know what we can even do? What is the I have like a hotkey. My walk hotkey is actually not working. I think I probably need to add that. I have a walk hotkey, but I just don't think that I have hooked up the Invector controller template to understand my walk hotkey yet, or to pass it along. Okay, so in this thing right here, we're just going to add back our 58 footstep short loop here, because we know that the regular animation-based footsteps are working. And then Let's go back into the InVector controller, and just for fun, we're going to add the play footstep event to the walk animation, because I actually want my character to start doing that immediately. So we see in the run here, we've got our play step events, and we'll go up to the walk animation and footstep right there. So we'll add an event, and then footstep right here. So we'll add an event and apply that. And then I think that's pretty much it. We've got like walk, turn left. I don't really care about that for now. What is this one doing anyway? Okay, it's just like a slow walk. Yeah, we're not going to need that at all. Okay, so let's save this and let's press play. And now I just want to see, my character should basically start making footsteps immediately now. So as soon as I start walking, except for that's wrong. Okay, what's happening now? This is so weird. He's receiving a play step event when he's standing still? If I'm understanding this correctly? How can he be receiving a play step event when he's standing still? I feel like InVector might actually be playing the walk animation for a frame. Wow, that's really interesting. If we look at the, there's got to be like an InVector locomotion controller in here somewhere. Vector basic locomotion. And if I look at this thing, I want to know if it's sending him into walk state, because that is like the oddest thing in the world. Okay. If I unpause this, I think I have to actually pull the animator. Okay, just a second. What's going on there? Input horizontal is currently set to 3.86. We're in the middle of a walk, run, sprint blend when we're standing still. So that's pretty fascinating. Even when our parameters are 0. I want to pull out the animator window here. And I just want to watch what happens. Wow. Okay. So, it's not properly showing it. It was a second ago. Basically, these numbers were just jumping around like crazy though, and I don't really understand what the controller is doing right now, but all of our parameters are showing as like nothing happening, yet yeah, that's really odd. I don't know if this is like some bug with their controller or not. Huh. Yeah, okay. There. So you can basically, you can see that the numbers are just jumping around like crazy. And for some reason, they're constantly setting the input magnitude and doing it in such a way that it must be playing. Yeah, there we go. The animation. For like a frame or something like that. It's so weird because the thing's lit up here and it says like we're in blue in idle, but that doesn't explain the fact that their thing is sending footsteps to the controller. So I think to get rid of that, what I'm going to do is just like write this off as kind of in vector weirdness, and I've looked at their code. There is absolutely nothing that I could do, even if I wanted to, about that stuff that sets all those animator values and booleans and such. So I think the best thing to do for now is just to remove the events from the walk animation and require us to at least get up to run speed to do footsteps with the InVector controller. So let's just go try that again. So that's working pretty good. And then if I stop, nothing basically. So we can see if we look at the console here, it's not playing movement. Last timestamp 23:15:17. Wait for a little bit. Last timestamp still 23:15:17. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this feature is working pretty much flawlessly. I don't know that there's much that can be done about InVector's weird playing of the walk animation when the character is standing still. But other than that, I am quite happy with this. We can now have movement loops, and if we want, we could like add the shuffling footsteps to the zombie as well for when he's walking. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I really hope you enjoy all of these new sound effects that are included in the engine. So when you play the game now, basically all of the spells that are included, even if you don't download the game, even if you just download the bare engine, should have sound effects. So as always, if you did enjoy that, don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the AnyRPG YouTube channel, or just leave a note in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.